The Lollipop remix gets me fired up. I love the song Lollipop all the time. I think it's a great pre-listing, open house song, pre-game song, late
Whoa.
night song,
Let me
everything.
lick
It's
your
incredible.
lollipop is a good open house sign. Let me lick your lollipop. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the most underrated podcast in not only just planet Earth, but not only just real estate, but planet Earth itself. Look at my beautiful background. It's Christmas time. We got Christmas music coming on. We had a week off after Thanksgiving, and we are back. Joining me, as always, the hair guy, the hair guy himself, Mr. Eric the Broke Agent Simon. Eric, how was your Thanksgiving, and how is your hairline?
The hairline is receding every single minute. Thanks, Dan, for reminding me. That's why I have the Grimace hat on. But I am in a holiday cheery mood, Dan. So
Are
we're
you?
not here to talk about the balding that is occurring every 5 seconds.
You're right. And happy Hanukkah to you as well. We are
Yeah, thank
also,
you.
speaking of Hanukkah, we are joined, as always, by the fire himself, the former Navy, former veteran. Thank you for your service, Mr. Shane Burgman. Shane, how you doing today, buddy? You look incredible, as always. Beard is just always put together. Sorry.
I'm fortunate that my beard doesn't recede, so I think I'll hold on to that for a long time, and then I'll lose the top and join Eric's club. But yeah, all is great in life, and hope you're amazing as well.
I feel great. And lastly, returning guest, Emily, you absolutely crushed it last time, so we had to bring you back. Welcome back to the show, Miss Emily McAllister. How you doing? How was your Thanksgiving?
Thank you. I'm doing well. It was a very mild Thanksgiving. The weather was very nice. Everybody had a good time.
Good, good. You know what's weird? As we get older, the less people start showing up to your Thanksgiving, to your events, right? So I think it's important that you cherish
Mm-hmm.
your Thanksgiving and your holidays together because as you get older, it starts to dwindle.
Mhm.
Speaking of dwindling, today on the show, we're talking about Ryan Serhant's 8 bold predictions for the real estate market. We're talking buyer dads driving people crazy. What else is new? Spotify Wrapped. What are you listening to on the way to a showing? What's pumping you up? And then, of course, we have Marketer of the Week, which I'm probably going to take a guess and say it's Jason Cassidy. But before we do, make sure to smash that like button. Make sure to smash that sub button. Comment. Wish Eric, somebody give this guy some vitamin D, a vitamin BEH, I don't know, something to help out with his hair. Shout out to Diane, and let's have an episode.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, topic number 1.
Yeah, boomer dads are out of control.
So this article here is from Curbed. We're actually switching it up a bit. So last spring, at a townhouse showing in Bedford's Stuyvesant, no idea where that is, this agent, David Harris, watched his client, a married millennial with a kid, bounce from room to room before taking a seat on a staged sofa, a gesture Harris had come to regard as a cue that the client feels at home and is about to make an offer. Well, he was right. He was way right. But what turns out, this is insane, his clients liked the place, and Harris suggested they go $50,000 over asking price, or $1.7 million for context. He anticipated a bidding war. His client agreed, but first, the client had to make one phone call, and it wasn't his get out of jail free card. It was a phone call to his father while lighting a cigarette. Of course it was. So the father advised his son that they shouldn't above over asking price, that they should be toward the home again, and he uncovered a flaw that because he had fixated on a detail that he saw online. The house was 18 feet wide. The father believed it was priced as if it were 20. They insisted on putting in an offer $50,000 below asking of the $1.65 million asking price. The house ultimately sold $150,000 over asking, and they didn't get the house. In theory, and to summarize, buyer dads, family, it is the worst of the worst. Shane, pass it to you first. How do you set the expectations with buyer dads, with family, with your consumers to not have them involved or allow them to feel involved but not overtake the transaction?
So I think the article does reference this, but anytime I'm working with a client, you want to figure out who the decision makers are. So by asking that question, you'll understand if there's a father, a mother, a brother, someone else that's involved. This article is also highly predicated on millennials borrowing money from their parents since it's so expensive for, loans right now. So there's a lot of that going on. But, as soon as I'm like reading that article, it kind of agitated me a little bit because I feel like already as real estate agents, our reputation is kind of being smeared. And then an article like this comes out and basically like us saying that our time's so valuable that a decision maker can't ask someone for permission to spend a shit ton of money. Like, I don't know. And then you read in the comments, dude, and the comments are pretty wild because they go off about that shit. And so it pissed me off. And the way that I've always viewed, if someone brings in a father, mother, or someone else to ask these questions to, is I relish in that fact. I love it. I love when other objections come my way because it might be something that I haven't heard before. And it allows me to, one, demonstrate that I'm an expert in this field, which is only going to build trust with those parents or whoever else is involved, to give them the confidence to lean on me and support their child for the decision. And then additionally, I might be accessing their sphere of people to just bigger clientele sphere. So I love it. I think that article was kind of, I didn't really like it. I feel like it was just shitty. Didn't really help out our reputation much. It's in a New York landscape too, so it's like different pricing. But I mean, overall, like that's just
there's
how I
people in
handle
the comments calling real estate agents parasites and saying like, "Oh my god, like you can't just have a conversation with the buyer's family or the father. Like a lot of them are spending money for their kids. Like almost every transaction I did, which I could count on one hand basically, but almost every transaction I did was involved with the buyer's family, whether it was whether it's like, gifting the down payment or they had some sort of involvement in the transaction. So Emily, how do you deal with the buyer's family? Are there any other like problems that arise when the mom or the dad are there? Like how do you tackle that situation?
I deal with a lot of first-time home buyers, and so that's something that is a really regular objection that comes up in my experience, just because parents are typically heavily involved in that process, even if they're not assisting financially. They just want to monitor and make sure their kids aren't being taken advantage of, which I agree with Shane. Like, I welcome that. Like, that's indicative of a great family dynamic. I'm glad that people have that. And honestly, very rarely do I have just a buyer from hell that has somebody around them that is just bound and determined to make everything end in a complete dumpster fire. I think one time I had a married couple who the husband was like, I will not buy a house unless my mom says it's okay. And I was looking at the wife like, girl, you need to do some soul searching about whether or not this is really what you want, because there's way bigger
With the
issues at play
husband?
here. Right. There's way more shit going on in the background than whether or not y'all buy this house. Like, that shit's concerning. But other than that, I mean, I agree with Shane. Like, I welcome some of those other questions and objections because it just gives me the opportunity to prove that I know what I'm talking about.
This article also made agents look so bad because out of nowhere, this guy said, or one of the agents said, that they'll purposely make a mistake within conversation to get corrected by the buyer or the buyer's dad, so that they could then say, okay, yeah, you actually do know what you're talking about, or like you are listening to what I'm saying, which I thought was just such a ridiculous way to go about it. Why would you purposely make a mistake so then
like
you
an
could hear
idiot.
the buyer's dad correct you, so then you could then say that you've been listening to the buyer's dad? That to me made absolutely no sense.
I think it was the way that he
that seems
articulated
strange.
it.
Then
Like, I think he articulated it wrong. Like, I don't think you should make a mistake, but I think he means more so like to make them feel like they're involved in the process. And I think it really is very dependent also on like the consumer and the dynamic. So when you have that initial buyer consultation, you want to ask the right questions right within the sales process. Hey, why are you moving? Who's involved in this transaction? If there is more people, whether it be a wife or a husband or a dad, a mom, they're helping you. Let's get them involved from the beginning. Let's do that buyer consult with them, so that way we can get kind of to the underlying issues. And if you kind of set that expectation, or if you take control right away with that confidence and in that first meeting, then you won't run into something like this. And of course, we do all the time. And Eric, I was telling you the story. I just had it. This guy was a real, I could curse on the show, right? He was a real prick. So one of my agents on my team, it was a rental for like $2,000 for his son who went to college, right? Kid backed out because he found another party house. He already paid the rent. It was $4,000. Not a big deal. This guy makes a lot of money. We know who he is. And basically he wanted all of the commission back and the rent, although he signed the lease and just never showed up. So my agent on my team is freaking out. Shout out to Jess. I call the guy up. He kind of does his whole prick job to me. I call him back. After that, I say, listen, you know what? We'll give you back everything. I'll even take it out of my own pocket, right? I'll take it out of my own pocket. Here you go. And in so doing so, I said, I'm going down to Florida. I'll be back on Thursday. He's like, oh, Florida, what part of Florida? I'm like, oh, Sarasota, whatever, Tampa. He's like, oh, I'm actually buying down there. I'm like, oh, really? I'm like, what industry are you in? He's like, oh, landscaping. I'm like, oh, so is my dad. Turns out he knows my dad. He's now buying down here with us. He's now selling up there, and he doesn't even want the money back anymore. He said to keep it. But it was because I let him think it was his idea, right? And I involved him, and I talked him through it. So sorry to cut you off, Eric, but I think more agents need to go through and actually study the sales process. It's not just a one person. You're not dealing with a husband or wife. A lot of times you are dealing with family members.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I
and I
think having
think
empathy for people when they're spending a lot of money, that they're gonna ask, people if it's okay. Like we do it every day when we look at Amazon. We look at reviews. It's no different than asking for a third party's opinion. Like if you're gonna spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and to think that you're not allowed to ask that question, like you're a piece of shit. I feel like that's
The
that's my stance.
the only objection that like really gets underneath of my skin is the whole, oh, it's not worth that. It's not worth that much money. That like, oh,
Mhm.
it grinds my gears so bad because ultimately it's worth what somebody's willing to pay for it. And especially in not so much right this second in the current landscape of the market, but like height of COVID dynamics when people were just throwing like ridiculous shit out there, I would straight up look at people and say, it's worth what, just because you guys aren't willing to pay that for this house doesn't mean there's not the next guy isn't willing to pay that. And so if this isn't the game you want to play, that's totally fine, but we just need to hang this up for right now and revisit it later.
Emily,
yeah,
what would you
there's
say?
also.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Dan.
Go ahead. Go, go,
Go
go.
ahead. No, you.
I was going to say, how would you role play that? How would you role play that, right? So I'm a father. I'm coming into this house. I'm telling you that the house is worth, this house is not worth $1 million. Are you kidding me? I saw 123 Main Street sold 9 years ago for 920. My son's not paying for this. Emily, I want to offer 800. Put it in.
I will tell people like literally word for word, it is worth what someone is willing to pay for it. And right now, today, I have enough market knowledge and enough comparable sales history to show you that this is a very accurate prediction of what someone is willing to pay for this house. And we can put that offer in, but the chances of them telling us to kick rocks is pretty damn high.
I like it.
I like that.
Shane, what
There's
would you?
another section. I don't know if there's a Wi-Fi problem here. Sorry, folks, but we're on a little delay interrupting each other. There's also a section in the article too where one of the buyer's dad says, "Well, I bought a house in Cleveland 15 years ago," and the agent says, "Well, that's a hell of a commute from Madison Avenue, which is in New York." So I thought that was kind of a good line in terms of the price comparison there. But they make agents look bad in this article, and they attack boomer dads. Like
Yeah.
there's a quote that says, "The faux expertise of generation of men who have had the world tilt to their way." Like I thought that was kind of a ridiculous thing to say. Like these boomers or these parents are financing these properties for the millennial and Gen Z buyers. And the amount of like disrespect that agents throw at buyers' dads, and I have a lot to do with this, honestly. I post
Mhm.
buyers' dads memes all the time, but my audience is other real estate agents to just make other agents laugh. So I definitely don't think it's helpful when agents share stuff about the buyer's dad or about the client's family or about the client's friend, because it's basically just disregarding, you know, the financier or the person that is the decision maker in this
Yeah.
process. So I think just the industry in general kind of needs to cool down with the buyer dad. I've been trying to stop doing those jokes just because I think we've been hammering them way too much. And it's kind of created this like fake boogeyman of the person that's making the transaction possible for everybody. So I think agents probably should not be sharing those buyer's dad memes. Not to, go against my content here, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's effective.
Shane, do you run into this at all down in Florida where maybe it's someone relocating, right? And they're via Zoom, and we know how you are. You're very cut and dry. Like if
Mhm.
you dealt with somebody that was a very overbearing parent, or even a spouse, like do you lead with empathy, where you'll maybe say like, hey, listen, I totally understand that you feel that way, but this is right. You feel that way. Where did you see that information? But this is the stats and facts, right? And lead with that, or even like the line of like, hey, if you were to pass that house every single day for the rest of your life, would you be upset if you missed out on it? Like some of the TF coaching.
Yeah, I mean, so for that stuff, I am very blunt to the point, but I love to ask questions. So if like the same scenario where if someone's like, I want to offer 800K for this house that's listed at 1 million, I would straight up ask them like, do you guys just want to write offers or you want to buy a house? And then let them kind of answer that question and then navigate through it. And if they're like, well, of course we want to buy a house, then I'd want to know like, where are you getting this $800,000 figure? and then we can start going through the questionnaire, and then most times than not, you're going to be able to uncover what they're trying to do. Are they trying to get a deal? Because everyone's trying to get a deal in this market. We get that, and then we read between the lines as far as like how long it's been on the market, the basic shit we know, days on market, other interests, things like that. Because I'm all about getting a deal. Like I love negotiating. I'm a buyer in this market too. Like I want to get a great deal, but I think understanding the landscape of what we're dealing with is really important, and you only get to that by asking the right questions.
Some agent in this article said that they always bring a one-sheeter with all the comps that they hand to with the price per square foot that they hand to the buyer's dad, as if this is some revolutionary thing that an agent has like all the sales comparables. And those were some of the comments too, just being like, oh my God, wow, the agent did their research. So this article just made agents look bad. It made Boomer dad looks bad. It made everybody look bad. But Emily, do you carry anything with you at showings? Like if you know that one of the parents or something is not necessarily overbearing, but is the decision maker, that you just have something to hand to them to give them actual, tangible evidence?
If I know, and I would say most of the time you can tell pretty quickly whether or not someone is being logical and like rational about the numbers and the decision making process versus someone just being like overbearing. Like my one guy that was like, I can't buy a house unless my mom says it's okay. Like that's some weird shit. That's some shit I can't fix. The numbers things I can fix. And so most of the time I will send that kind of stuff ahead of time if I already know that there's somebody in the background chirping about those types of things that just says like, here's where this is priced, here's where this falls like in comparison to all of these other items, blah blah blah.
Yeah, makes sense.
They do it. I think the media out right now is just kind of out to get us, and we're just the low-hanging fruit, and things like this are just not making it any better at all. But you know how you can get better, Eric? You know how you can get better as an agent? You know how you can get better as a marketer? Human being?
I know exactly how you can get better, Dan, and that is by joining BAMX. By the way, if you join today, this is the last day at these super low prices. We are still doing Cyber Week. Use code Black Friday. Link in the description to join BAMX, the best education platform in the game. We have over, 1,300 members in there already. We just launched since April. It's absolutely blowing up. We are launching our thumbnail course for agents for YouTube tomorrow, December 1st. So get in right now. Lowest price. You'll be grandfathered in for life. Link in the description and in the pinned comment. Let's go. Moving on to 8 predictions
from for sure. YouTube, everyone hammer YouTube immediately. Sorry, Eric. All right, with the Wi-Fi's weird here. We're cutting each other off. This Florida thing is diabolical. I hate Florida. Topic number 2 from Ryan Serhant. We haven't brought him up. I feel like we've talked about Jason Cassidy 90 more times than Ryan Serhant in the last, 6 weeks. But Serhant, as always, the genius that he is, he had a Twitter thread. This article here is on BAM, posted by Sarah Lenz. He had a Twitter thread in which he gave us 8 bold predictions for 2024. I'm going to read some of these bullet points and the comments, the tweets, all the above. And I want to see which ones you guys agree with or which ones you guys may find to be BS, if I can. Okay, I will do that then. So, Ryan Serhant, as always, 8 bold predictions. Number 1, he believes that even greater
bifurcated markets.
Bifurcated, I don't even know what that means. Markets. So just to clarify, that is something that is split into 2 parts or branches. Serhant explains that the market bifurcation in the YouTube video is that we're going back to a time of remote work and COVID. Remote work has changed the need for office space, and how, especially during COVID, online marketplaces replaced brick and mortar retail. After lockdowns, there was a return to brick and mortar shopping and in-person use, but not to the same extent. So now he believes that there is a converting unused office commercial space into residing units to increase housing supply. He also pointed out, though, that not all companies are letting go of their office space. So some are even asking for more. Salud. Number 2, there will be more national searches. Again, back to the COVID situation, there is still a ton of remote work. People have the ability to work from wherever. Eric, you are also right now a home buyer. This matched your criteria to a T.
Just read the bold, all 8 headlines of his predictions, and then we'll get into our thoughts on them.
Suburbs are on the rise. Thanks, Ryan. Branded residencies will be in strong demand. True. Downtown builds around professional workers will feel immense pressure. Investors are going to go bearish on real estate. Prices are going to continue to increase. Interest rates will actually stabilize. And those were the 8 points. Emily, how do you feel about Ryan's 8 points and the first word here of I can't even pronounce it. What do you think about Ryan's 8 points?
Okay, so numbers 1 through 3 are kind of all the same, right? And the
Agreed.
bifurcated market is something I've been talking about on social media for 18 months, because especially where I'm at, like there's been all of this conversation of the sky is falling, the real estate market is going to crash, blah, blah, blah. But my market is relatively insulated from that because the majority of our industry is somewhat recession proof. Like there's a large university here and there's a large hospital here, and we do a lot of like pharmaceutical manufacturing. Like all of the things that are here, that doesn't go away when there is a recession. And what's happening, or what has happened with COVID, is that we saw a massive influx of people come in from areas like Raleigh and Wilmington because the real estate and the cost of living is so much less expensive here versus those more metro areas. And so that, but you'll see the opposite happen. Like the real estate here will hold steady or continue to increase, but Raleigh, you may see things take a small dip. I have been arguing that literally, like that's so validating because I have been online saying that for well over a year.
Have you said the word bifurcated before?
Yes.
Until today? You have. Fantastic. Shane, did you know about the word bifurcated? No way.
It's maybe 15 years I heard it. No, that's not a word that will ever go
You heard
in my
it 15
lingo.
years ago when you were 16 or whatever?
When I was in school, man, and I haven't heard it. 16? Thank you.
I don't know.
That was a hard word. That was a hard word. Shane, in Florida, are they? Word, do you? I want to get your overall take on this, but are they building? Is there land to build? Like that, Ryan was saying that builders are going to be bearish right now. There's not like land to find. There's not land to build.
So there's a ton of land. He said investors are bearish, and I'll talk about that because that was one of the topics. But like where I'm at in Florida, so not like Miami is saturated, right? There's no land there, but where we live, which is between essentially Miami and Daytona, right? There's a large strip of land in Florida. Like specifically where I'm at, one of the topics Ryan talks about is suburbs, right? Suburbs on the rise. I'm in a suburb. I'm in a new construction community. We're in a 20-year master plan. We're about 8 years into the 20-year development of it, and it's rapidly growing. It has been for really the last 5 years. COVID, pushed the boundaries as far as what builders can do, and we were completely ran out of vendors and everything that can be done. But within a 1 mile radius of where I'm at, they're still putting up homes like nobody's business, throwing commercial, around the corner, Publix's, which is like a grocery store down here, and all sorts of things that are really helping out. So I absolutely agree with his topic number 3, suburbs on the rise, because you want to be in the middle of the hustle and bustle and things that are going on. And here we're on the Space Coast. We have a ton of land that can push to the west and almost border into Orlando. So we're not really running out of that, except we're on the swamp. So they've got to find dirt to bring it in. As far as like investors go, like I have noticed that them being bearish just because, the opportunities from an investor standpoint are looking limited because they have margins they want to hit. And, with demand being down in most areas in the market, most investors are taking on a little bit more risk by that. So I've noticed that in our market. And, to agree with Emily, like our market, I would say is quite insulated as well. We have a lot of government contractors, a couple military bases, huge engineering firms, SpaceX is down here, but I don't think that we're resilient against a recession. I'm not going to say that. So, as far as the growth in Florida, it's here, but I agree with most of Ryan's points.
Do you think that Ryan, though, is just like sometimes I find it, what he's saying, hard to believe because I feel like he's so invested. Like he has a team in brokerage right now in North Carolina. He's in South Carolina. He's national, right? So if he comes out and he's bleak, or if he shares something that maybe is not as positive, like do you feel like he's kind of just trying to be Mr. Positive out here and try to keep everyone's spirits up, in a way because so many people look up to him?
I think there's always like an undertone of his communication that it's like, I don't know. I always feel like he's trying to sell something, and he's really good at it, right? He's clever, but I know he's growing into Florida and Texas, and he actually throws them out on 2 of the tweets there about Texas and Florida, about how those are areas of growth and opportunity, and how people that have traditionally lived in large metros like in New York are navigating to other places because of telework. And he's correct in that aspect, but he's also growing his brokerage in both of those markets. So I do think there's always like that undertone of like, he's a great marketer,
Yeah.
but I genuinely do value a lot of the things he says, and I know he's a thought leader in the space.
I also think
The
branded
whole
revenue.
national search Yeah, the whole national search aspect of it I thought was interesting because as a buyer right now, we're literally looking in like 4 different states right now. So I'm wondering, Emily, are you dealing with that from your clients where you now have to have comp knowledge of surrounding cities and states? Because before, remote work and like 4 or 5 years ago, I feel like everybody kind of had a specific area, and now everybody's comparing the area that they live into to maybe somewhere in Arizona, somewhere in Florida, somewhere in Phoenix. Like, is that happening to you in Greenville, or is everybody pretty focused on where they are?
Um, I have had experienced that a little bit for a little while, because it's not like super uncommon for somebody to find my information online and then to raise their hand and say, "Oh, well, I want to move to Greenville. I know nobody there and I've never visited there, but I just think I want to buy a house there." And so
Right.
that like type of thing of just like kind of randomly throwing a dart to a map and let's see where it sticks is not something that I'm totally unfamiliar with. But I mean, occasionally I will get it where somebody will call, and not so much anymore, but used to, I would get people that would call and say, I want to buy like a single family house on 10 acres of land for like $175,000. And I'm like, dude, this is still like, this is still the United States. Like you can't do we're very rural, but you can't do that shit. Like it still costs money to buy it. But yeah, I mean, I get that pretty regularly. My market almost always wins. Like our average sale price for the county is $275,000. So pretty much anywhere you're comparing it to, it's going to be less expensive.
Yeah, I feel like it's more of a problem in big cities. Like if you're in
Mhm.
LA or San Francisco, you might want to have some knowledge about surrounding, suburbs or places where it's a little bit less expensive, so that you can answer those questions for your buyers. We're like, well, what if I move 15 miles north? What can I get for that? Because LA
Yeah.
is like 6 different cities in one. So you have to have knowledge of what's happening in the Valley and West Hollywood and Beverly
Mhm.
Hills and Santa Monica. So you're already kind of dealing with that problem. But then if they say, I want to go to Orange County, which is 45 minutes away, or something in San Diego, you kind of have to expand your radius of that knowledge. And that certainly has become the place, like the standard during COVID, because now people are like, well, I could just work remotely. So I'd rather
Yep.
pay less for a house, still hold my job in Los Angeles, but live in a
Yep.
cheaper location.
We have to do that. I mean, Shane, I'm pretty sure you're in the same boat. We have like the stretch of what we deal with in New York is about an hour long, like an hour and 15.
Mhm.
So we could sell something an hour and 15 minutes away out by Queens in the city, or we can go to the Hamptons. So having that market knowledge, it is very tough. So we hired a data nerd who basically pulls all the numbers from MLS, and every single week we'll put it out there. It's literally his title. And so that way we have a quick snapshot. The team then uses it to articulate to clients. But now having to learn Florida, that's a completely different ballgame. That is, I thought there's a DTPBR is like their the association, I believe. I thought that was a beer until about 3 weeks ago. So Dan McKinnon, a
Yeah.
friendly face on the show, just took me around yesterday for the first time and actually gave me a tour and was just telling me all like the different nuances of the area. But if somebody asks you like, hey, how's the market in Tucson, Arizona? I don't know, man. Google it. Like, that's out of my it's out of my league. But now having to learn Florida and these other markets, it's important to know your statistics to a point.
Yeah, you got to learn. I feel like the surrounding areas that people are going to potentially move to, especially from New York, because there's so
Mhm.
much relocation to Florida and vice versa. It's good to have knowledge of those markets. Another thing that I thought was interesting was that Serhant said that branded residences will be in strong demand, and said that 40% growth in branded residences,
Mhm.
where
Yep.
buyers will pay a premium for hotel branded residences, which offer services such as in-room dining, housekeeping, and other services that you might expect from a luxury hotel. So Emily, are you seeing this in Greenville? Is this kind of a more New York big
I don't
city
know.
thing? Like, I haven't even heard of these
You
branded
think they have
residences.
Well,
11 in Greenville, in North Carolina? Come on, Eric. You've been to
hell
Greenville,
no.
North
We
Carolina?
have
I
one
actually
Hilton
have.
property. We have one Hilton property. They're building a hotel downtown right this second. It was a whole rigmarole. Everybody in town freaked the hell out because they were
The first
building
hotel.
yes, the first hotel downtown. There
Of
are
course you
other
can.
hotels in town, but not downtown. Okay. It was a big ordeal. So no, that is not something, that is not something I'm familiar with or something that I will see in the foreseeable future. Not here.
There's a lot of these in LA, like in West LA. There's something called the Wilshire Corridor on the way to Century City, where you're paying like minimum $3,000 a month HOA fees, because $3,000 a month, which is like our rent basically. You're paying that for valet service, for I don't think it's in-room dining, but you have a maid service. There's a pool. There's a gym. It's kind of like you
Yep.
are living in a hotel, but that's just such an extremely high amount. I wouldn't want to do that. Maybe when I'm like 70, 80 years old, but
The
not
the
right now.
most expensive HOA here in the county is $2,500 a year.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yep, I'm
That's
moving to
ridiculous.
Greenville,
The
North
average here
Carolina.
in Brentwood is like 700 to 1,200 a month.
Yeah, no. It's like, and what kills me is sometimes it's depending on who I'm talking to. Some people are like, "Oh my God, that's $215 a month," and then I get people come in from the Northeast and they're like, "Holy shit, this is only $215 a month."
Emily,
It's
we
all,
might
it's
have
all
to have a call after this, because I might move out there, because this is ridiculous what I'm doing here in LA.
Eric's still looking, but I do believe in the residencies, and I would be somebody that would do that myself. So like if you go to think about like Miami, they're building the Aston Martin residencies, they're building the 11, all these luxury complexes that are going to be built and done the right way. If you are going to invest in something, or you are going to be living somewhere, having those amenities and having the name behind it, or the specific builders, right, like Morocco builders, that to me gives me comfort, right, like knowing that it's not going to be some the walls aren't going to fall in, or right, there's not going to be any issues. Not that the walls are going to fall in, but I live in a complex now, and if I look at the wall, it like slashes. So you would think that I'm in there with colored pencils every day, just like marking up the walls, but it's because they use cheap paint, and I pay $4,200 a month. So I'd rather spend that money and actually be somewhere that I'm comfortable and confident in, and be able to actually use those amenities. Like imagine having a sauna, indoor and outdoor. Eric, you'd be in that. You wouldn't leave. Imagine having
Yeah,
a red light
I'd be
therapy
dead.
room. Yeah, me too. But they have a red light
Yeah.
therapy room. I didn't even know that
I mean,
existed. It's just a room.
think about Shane. Shane has his ice baths that he does every single morning, so he could hop in the sauna right after, do a little cold treatment, then hot
Oh,
treatment.
I'm there. I'm
You would
there.
be in
I'll
heaven.
go. I'll go right now. I'll go right now.
Yeah,
He wouldn't be able to set up
exactly.
his camera. That's why he couldn't do it there. Hey Shane, I actually got one for Cyber Monday, so I'm gonna be. I can't swim, but because of you, I did get one.
A
You
cold
got an
one
ice
or
bath?
Yeah, nice pad. You'll never see me
You don't
post
need to
about it
swim.
ever.
You'll never go
Look
in
at my
that
skin.
thing. You don't need to swim to be in an ice bath.
I could drown. Look at my skin. Minus this. It's worked. I've been drinking celery juice, ice bath.
wow.
Nice.
Let's go.
Anyway, any final thoughts here on Ryan Serhant's 8 points, Mr. Positive?
He says that interest rates will actually stabilize,
Yeah.
demand will be even greater, and the prices will continue to go up. So,
Which I do agree with. The last point.
Yep.
yeah,
Same.
yeah. I like these little tweet threads that Ryan does. I think it's cool when people break down their predictions like this. And this is the month of predictions. So you're going to see the Zillow predictions, the Realtor.com predictions, everybody posting about what they think home prices are going to be are going to do. And they're always great articles for agents to green screen and talk about and relate to their specific market. So
Everybody's
good
checked out
shit.
right now. Everybody's checked out right now, and you know how to check back in? You get into BAMX. You learn about YouTube.
That's right.
You learn about these articles. You learn about market prices. You learn about comps. You do all of those things. That's what you do right now in
That's right.
December. You don't check out. You check in.
That's
Stay
right.
checked in.
And you can check out with the link in the description. Use code
Yeah.
Black Friday for 20% off. Prices go up. And as you're watching this, prices go up in about 6 hours. So get in there right now. Let's go to the
We're going
last
up right
topic,
now.
and this is the one I'm most excited about, because Spotify Wrapped just dropped. And right now everybody's posting the fact that Taylor Swift is the most streamed artist, posting.
No, she's not. No, she's not. It's such. Don't say that.
It's
She
not-
she
it's
made
not
she
Bad
created the
Bunny.
same album she already made. Don't get into that with me. Bad Bunny is the most
Okay.
streamed artist in the world.
Okay, I'm sure you know the statistics better than Spotify. Your most streamed artist is probably like Lil Durk or something like
No,
that, or Tekashi 6ix9ine. But Emily, I'm gonna break this down here. Let's figure out what realtors actually listen to, what gets you hyped, what you play at showing. So Emily, it's your open house. You could only put on one song for the open house on loop for the rest of your life. Which song would it be?
For the rest of my life?
For the rest of your life, if the song is on repeat, every time a buyer walks in, it's that same song playing. It doesn't matter the type of house. It doesn't matter if it's a beach house or if it's a farmhouse or whatever. One song.
Oh my God.
Or a playlist.
Okay, so if we're just generalizing to playlist, we're doing like 90s dive bar music, like Sugar Ray.
Ooh.
Um
Okay.
All of the other artists that fall under Sugar Ray is like the immediate like artist that I think of when I think 90s dive bar music.
I
So
haven't heard the
any
name Sugar Ray in
Yeah.
15
Every
years.
morning
That's the statues crumble for me song. Yeah, okay. Is that
no,
what you put on at your open houses? Like, what do you put on?
God, hope not.
I really don't play music like at my open houses.
Okay,
But
got it.
if
All
I
right, how
was
about
going
this?
to, if I was going to, that is probably what I would put on.
Okay, so Sugar Ray 90s dive bar music. What about
Yes.
you're on the way to a listing appointment, you're trying to get fired up. You just listening in straight silence or you throwing something
Um,
on?
no, I would do like I graduated high school in 2014, and so like Drake between like 2010 and 2014, that's what I'm doing.
Hell yeah.
Okay. Shane, do you even listen to music, buddy? Actually, you definitely do. It's definitely like Metallica.
No, man, I have a large array of genres. So open houses, I have a playlist that I always go to, and I wrote a lot of this shit down. So if you're listening and you want a good playlist for open houses, it's called Jazz Vibes on Spotify. Not many lyrics, great tempo throughout. It's nothing that's gonna like polarize an audience that comes through, and it's even keeled throughout the day. It's a
What are the
playlist with like
BPMs?
300 songs,
Like a
anywhere
94
between
BPM?
70 to 100. Yeah, so it's a lot of jazz tronica and lo-fi for those of you that know those genres of music, but hard for people not to like. Even the old cats that love jazz can appreciate the new version of jazz. People that like electronic music can appreciate that. It just kind of sets a good little tone. And I always play music at my open houses. I have my little speaker, it's in my backpack. That's the playlist I'm always going to. It's killer. It's called Jazz Vibes. A good second is called Jazz Tronica. That one sometimes gives me anxiety because there's so much variance in like the BPM, and that's the whole thing with jazz. If you can see me move, and like my heart rate's increasing right now because I'm thinking about it. But I would only do that if you're experienced in the tempo world.
You always got to be wary when you walk in these open houses. If the music is too loud, I was just at
Oh
an
yeah.
open house because we were searching a couple of weeks ago, and the music was blasting. And I thought it was probably because the freeway is within a quarter mile
Ooh.
away. So sometimes when the music is blasting, it's because they're trying to hide something. So sometimes you got to ask them to turn down the music. Dan, what do you listen to at your open houses? Skrillex?
So I was gonna make a couple jokes. John Summit's Tulum 2023 mix, and I just have
Of
everybody put
course.
on
Oh
silent
my God.
headphones. And they
Let's
just
spring break.
spring break mix. But what I usually used to do was put on Bad Bunny because that's my favorite, right? I used to put on Spanish music, but then what I realized is you could actually potentially get in trouble because if I have Spanish music on at one house versus a Michael Bublé show or playlist at another, that could be perceived as me, right? Generalizing. They don't know that Bad Bunny is my favorite artist. So what I've transitioned into is a Billy Joel playlist because who doesn't like some Billy Joel, right? And then every now and then I'll throw a little Stevie Wonder, a little Stevie, like I just called to say I love you, and everyone just relaxing, they're vibing. I keep it at the same volume the entire time. If the house is on a freeway or somewhere loud, you better believe I've
Metallica.
got subwoofers, and we're just as loud as you can be. But
You'll
now,
literally hire a DJ there if it's
yeah,
by a freeway.
I've done that many times. But I do think now, like the holiday season, and now that we are past Thanksgiving, so you are a-okay to listen to Christmas music or Hanukkah music. Now is the time to be playing that.
Yeah, not much Hanukkah music. Emily, are you a fan of the Christmas music at showings?
I like Christmas music, but I am like Trans-Siberian Orchestra Christmas music. That and maybe like yeah, that's my vibe.
Trans-Siberian?
Yeah,
Is that
Trans-Siberian
You know it.
Orchestra.
You know it, Eric.
got
you're
it, got it.
Trans-Siberian.
Shane, what about on the way to I wish. Shane, what about on the way to a listing appointment? What are you throwing on in your car?
So I wrote down 5, and I'll do in the order of the ones that I love the most and the ones I play the most. So, number 1, "On Your Mind" by Cascade. Literally, I listen to it and I get goosebumps. It's so fucking good.
Do you mean
My
in your
phone goes on
mind?
Do Not Disturb.
Yeah, wait.
No, it's on Your Mind by Cascade.
That's what I'm thinking about too, right? On your
Look it up. It'll give you goosebumps. It's such a good fucking track. Number 2, "Youngblood" by the Naked and Famous. That's a song that if you can't listen to it and then not be in a good mood. So you're always going to be in a good mood listening to that. Number 3, Into the Mirror by Minus the Bear. MTB, one of my favorite bands. Just good melodies, great lyrics, will absolutely place you in a spot of just appreciating your life. Dreamcast by Mine Against. Anything by Mine Against is going to be very like melodic and higher BPM, which is going to just like get you in a good thought process. So I love that. And then The Business by Tiesto, a classic. It's an incredible song. All the remix. That's it. Yeah.
Let's get
that
down.
song was like playing on repeat in like 2021. That song was always on. I feel like it was just pumping in my brain for like 6
I remember when it dropped on. Dude,
so
Tiesto has
annoying.
an incredible
Get down,
podcast. If you
get
guys,
down to business.
Club Life
No,
by Tiesto.
I'm not listening to the Tiesto podcast.
No, and
Emily,
Shane,
what about if you're scrolling through the MLS? Is there anything you put on in the background?
I'm on a
Drake?
really big. No, not Drake. I have to be in like a specific mood. I go through phases. Like right now, I'm on a huge Taylor Swift kick, and I will like pick an artist and then pick like 3 songs and then pick like 3 lines within those 3 songs and just replay the shit out of like those 5 or 6 lines. I don't know. It's like hyperfixation on whatever, and then I'll get bored of that, and then I'll pick something else. But then I just do the same thing with another set of songs.
The Taylor Swift hype right now is so insane. My wife listens to it nonstop. She went to the concert, then she went to the movie, which the movie is literally just the concert replayed. And then she was watching Dancing with the Stars, which was a Taylor Swift rendition of Dancing with the Stars. And then there's just Taylor Swift constantly playing. It's probably playing in the bathroom right now. While she's
it's on her
ready.
story right now. It's on Anne's story right now. And it just says like Taylor Swift got coffee this morning. And it's literally on our Instagram story. I never knew Anne to be that way. And I don't understand.
I'll tell her to delete that. Yeah.
Please. And so what you said about how you listen to Taylor Swift's lyrics every 3 seconds, I listen to Tom Toole. So when I'm on my way to a listing, not while I'm just scrolling through the MLS, trust me, but while I'm going on a listing appointment, I swear to God, I'll put my phone on Do Not Disturb for 10 minutes so I can clear my thoughts. And I'll actually listen to Tom Toole or a recording of our listing presentation to kind of like, there's no distractions because, when you're driving and all of a sudden someone calls you and goes, hey, your dog's dead. And you have 2 minutes for a listing presentation. You're like,
jeez,
freak out. No, I'm not serious, but you can get distracted and it can put you in a bad headspace. So you want to go in there, just Tom Toole, right? Stone Cold Assassin, and be prepared and be ready. Whether that's Let's Get Down to Business, whether that's Taylor Swift, Eric, what would yours be?
On the way, I kind of agree with Emily. It's those high school nostalgia vibes. So for me, it would be kind of 2006 to 2008 Lil Wayne for sure. That No Ceilings mixtape, which might have came out right after that, but Lil Wayne, even just Lollipop, the Lollipop remix. The Lollipop remix gets me fired up. I love the song Lollipop all the time. I think it's a great pre-listing, open house song, pre-game song, late night song, everything.
Let me lick your lollipop is a good open house sign. Let me lick your lollipop.
Explains
if you walked in and you heard Lollipop, you would get fired up. If you walked in an open house, you'd be like, holy shit, I love this song.
I would. Maybe that's why you didn't sell.
I think 90%, anyone 36 and under, if they walked into an open house, heard the song Lollipop, they'd be like, this is sick. I like this listing agent.
The first time, 100%. True story, I ever met Eric, true story, flew to LA. We drove 3 hours, which is probably so diabolical. Never met in person. First 5 songs on our Laffy Taffy, Lean With It, Rock With It, the K-Wang. What else? There was one more that was like, yeah. All right. Speaking of which,
so awful.
That's another episode of the walkthrough here. And just before we leave, I just want to show you guys one thing right here. Talk about vibes. You play this song on repeat at every single open house. You can't not be in a good mood.
Emily doesn't like it.
You will.
This is too much for an open house. That's too much.
That's another episode of the walkthrough. Make sure to get into BAMX. You have seconds. I mean, that price is going up literally by the minute. Shane, go follow Shane. Thanks for being on the show. You are the best. Go follow Eric if you don't already. Emily, another 10 out of 10 episode. You might be the new host. I'm probably out here. Thank you all for listening. Shout out to Diane. Subscribe to BAMX. Eric, thank you for putting this episode together. I appreciate you.
Yep.
Everyone,
Peace, everyone.
Thank you. Love you. See you next week.